welcome back to another episode of the Search Economy. Today I have Steve Van Diest with me. He is the president of the Front Range with Acumen. Steve, I'll actually give you the mic because we chat plenty. We were chatting for 10 minutes before this anyway. Tell us about Acumen.
It's great. 3 years ago, a gentleman, the founder and chairman of Acumen, came to me and we were introduced, very similar to the way we were introduced, and said, "Hey, what do you think about launching this here on the Front Range?" And so Acumen is a peer advisory group of business owners up and down the Front Range that are wanting inspiration, challenge, and being sharpened by each other. And we put them in together for 5 hours and we solve business issues. And it's been fascinating. It takes a lot of my old world of nonprofit people, human development, and my entrepreneurial journey of 17 years as well, and mixing it in my 50s to share wisdom. I'm not the smartest person in the room. There's guys like you, David, that are in the room. But it's putting the power of those leaders, CEOs, business owners together for 5-6 hours a month, building relationships, but it's also solving business issues. A lot of fun. So really grateful.
Give me the background too. 17 years prior to Acumen, I'm sure you have plenty of stories. What's the TLDR, the 30,000 foot view?
You know what? My wife and I were full-time ministry for a while and we were playing around the world. So we lived in Boulder. We moved to Chile for a year. We came back. We moved with a 4-month-old to southern Spain and took a whole bunch of young 20-year-olds to southern Spain and had a great year in Spain. Came back, and with 3 humans, we moved to Mexico City to start a nonprofit to figure out how to get business leaders, government leaders, health leaders, education, community, faith leaders, all playing in the same sandbox. We moved there with 3 young humans, found out right away we were pregnant with our fourth. And another podcast, another story. About 6 months later, my wife goes, "I'm out. I'm done with you. I don't love you." So, short story, we ejected out of Mexico City. Everything we owned was there, and we landed in kind of another. It felt like a little international, but it was one really restful place. Was Greeley, Colorado, and it smelled like cows. But as a kid, I grew up in a dairy family, so dairymen would say the smell of poop is money. And so for me, that 2 years in Greeley was really a refresh, restart, a restoration of our marriage, and it changed us forever. Really hard year, but man, we fell in love and worked through some personal stuff. It was really a wonderful year. Had our fourth, but in that, sitting on the porches, talking, building community with people, getting people to know my story, and I'm knowing their story and being known. Um, a neighbor said, "Hey, I'm starting some businesses down in Denver and I'm going to start mattress stores." And I thought, I want nothing to do with you or this business. But about a year later, I'm opening up stores in Cherry Creek. Another 6, 7 months after that, we're opening up a store in Highlands Ranch, another one in Lone Tree. And then about a year later, we're launching mattress stores all across the country. And so did that about 14 years on the franchise level as well as a local owner. And then about the same time, I'm walking around Las Vegas with my business partner, and we're going through the furniture market, and we're looking at all the tchotchkes of sleep and furniture and Easter stuff and Christmas stuff. And we said, "Gosh, what's going on that we're sensing?" And we saw a niche that we could jump into, and it was sleep goods. And so we started manufacturing pillows, sheets, comforters. So I launched a B2B company and a B2C company. And then both those companies we were exited early 2020 and early 2021. And that's when I found Acumen, or Acumen found me. So yeah, I was a ministry nonprofit dude turned mattress salesman, which is helping people. And then if you were to rank, I always joke with my lawyer friends, my used car salesmen, my car dealer friends that own businesses. I go, we're kind of hanging out in the bottom with drug dealers and mattress salesmen, lawyers, and used car salesmen. So I went from high of part of the society of helping to the bottom, but had a great time building community, hiring felons, hiring refugees, learning a ton in the business world. That's early on. That time is when I got my MBA, and having a ton of fun. But now this next chapter in my 50s is not about, it's about helping others. And it's been a joy meeting folks like yourself in Numa.
Tell me, I appreciate that. And I love the backstory, and I always love I with the mattresses is just like, in hindsight, everything is clear. You probably would have never expected to be where you're at today selling mattresses back then. But as you think about that, and you just hinted at it, right? Like helping others find answers to their problems, bringing them together. One thing that you've talked to me about, I've heard you talk about. There's a difference between just being a resource to somebody and then just giving them advice. Uh, tell me more, because I think that's something that anybody listening to this could definitely learn from. But there's difference between just kind of giving your opinion, the advice side of it, but actually being there for somebody and helping them through a larger issue.
Yeah, and I think there's like a third level. Yes, people love to give advice. If I were to sit and just ask a room full of leaders, tell me your advice, it would just vomit all over you. And I try to protect not doing that as well. Because, yeah, I've got 30 years of professional adulthood, marriage, family, business, nonprofit, international. I could barf all over you about advice. And then there's this piece also, those that are farther down the road. Here, read this, check this out, resources. But I think there's a third tier. How about I actually put the people that I'm leading or I'm surrounded by in an environment where they can help each other? It's no longer just me and you in a transaction of getting smarter, but we've provided an environment of growth. Maybe that environment is about helping marriages, or maybe that environment is about helping fitness and wellness. Yes, there's a value of one-on-one personal training, but there's also an environment when you get around a room of a bunch of Neanderthals lifting weights, that environment changes the whole experience. And so for me, it's kind of moving from advice giving to resource giving to a whole nother level of, what if you were in an environment where the whole community was about your benefit, your growth, your wisdom, your success? That's a game changer. And so I kind of take it to a third level.
I mean, as we've talked about that as well, it's one thing. A lot of people just have knowledge and they always love to talk about it, but changing the environment, changing the motive, it can definitely unpack some of the stuff that's actually meaningful for people as they work through issues. Using that unpack word, you have a longer career, definitely longer than mine. But as you look at the businesses that you've served, that you've been a resource to, as you look at their CEOs and founders, I think it'd be interesting. Like, what are some of the common things that you see from those people? What are the, like, if you see a trait or a behavior or an issue in the business, even like, what are the red flags or the green flags that you could call off?
Yeah, that's a great question. Most of us that are running businesses get siloed. We're working so hard. Even if we've got a buddy down the street, I'm meeting with clients, and one's like, I bet you didn't know we were going to talk about marriage today. And another one, because I bet you didn't know we were going to talk about this. The issue is that we can get doing great things. We can have, and I think there's as we'll talk about what is successful businesses, what are some common trends. I think it's redefining success. And then as you walk into an environment of what business owners, founders, CEOs are dealing with, is letting them know they're not alone. I think the biggest piece is, especially here out in the mountain states, there's this mountain man philosophy out here. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to find my gold on my own. And maybe I've got one or two buddies, but it's really me alone. And I love the adventure. I had somebody describe, maybe in the Midwest, business owners operate more like a wagon train. Hey, let's do this together. And I'm finding a trend out here in Colorado and being out here as well. Even when I was a business owner, I had a business partner, I was still lonely. I had, if I had a conflict with a business partner or a franchisor or another, I had no one to go to. I could go to a faith community, but they're not going to understand my business issues. I could go to a buddy that I smoke cigars with, but he may not understand the full context. I could even go to my business partner, but maybe the issue is us. And so I think there's a common thread of, we're alone, we're siloed, we're the smartest people in our business. And in our business, and even if we're in a faith community, typically the business owner is worshiped, and so they're put on a pedestal. David is the smartest person in his company. David's one of the smartest people I know. And you're also young and wise beyond your years. But there's an element of going, if I'm the smartest person, I'm the most talented person in my company, I've got the biggest drive, I've got the biggest why. That's why I started the company. I know how to lead people, but that's all I got. I'm at the top alone. So I think loneliness is a piece of it. Being siloed, just not having other eyeballs on you on a deep. Can we open up everything about us? Can I be vulnerable? And I think it's one of the fears at the beginning of why people don't jump into communities like ours is they're afraid of being known. Is someone going to know about how I
Yeah.
misappropriate finances? Is someone going to know that I'm actually a closet alcoholic? Is someone actually going to know I'm an asshole at work, but my wife thinks I'm a saint? So I don't know if I'm allowed to use those words
You're allowed
on
to use
TV.
whatever word you want. I mean, it adds a level of realness to it, and I think what you just brought up is like a common feeling that I've even had before around. You said like the business owner is the one who's typically worshipped. They're the smartest. They have the most drive. A lot of times, I don't always think that's the case, even about me and my own business. But it's always a struggle to get others to realize that. I think the tough part is everybody just assumes it. They always come to you, and half the time it's like an imposter syndrome of I am not smart enough to handle this issue, but somehow it's on my plate. That's more tactical, but I'm curious, how do you coach somebody through that in the sense of they are the pinnacle of the business, but in many ways they shouldn't be. There are smarter people around them that should be tackling that stuff.
And that's that part of, like, in our world, we say we want to inspire you, challenge you, and sharpen you. That's that part of that challenge, sharpen, and inspire you is you are not the most important person in your business. You have to work on your business, no longer in your business. So founders and business owners can get stuck in that, especially as we start growing things.
Yeah.
It there is an element. I know narcissism is a word tossed out there in the political world, in the business world, and it seems like everybody's a narcissist that we don't like. But there is a bit of crazy about any business owner. We are a little bit crazy.
You have to be.
You do, because it's people are like, oh, it's so great. You're making all this money and you have all these people and they serve you and you're on your own. You don't understand that we don't sleep. And we don't, yes, we have all this free time, but we really don't. And so I think how do you break out of that is to understand you're a little bit of crazy. You need some time to work on you, on your business, and to find like-minded people. And I think one of the biggest things, especially even in the search economy, it's like, okay, how are people going to find us? How am I going to be whole and healthy as a business, as a leader? I think there's two key pieces. It's the soul of me, it's the soul of my business. And I need to be known and I need to be loved. If my business product, widget, service that I'm doing is known and loved, guess what? Your business is going to grow. But what about me as a leader, the soul of me as well? If I'm known, not known about me, but I'm really known and known with my scars and my wounds. And you're married and I'm married. I'll be married 31 years, recovering from that Mexico City nightmare. Uh, but there's a piece of my wife knows me completely. She knows my idiosyncrasies, my weaknesses. She knows my triggers. She knows that I'm not a good coach to my wife's business. That's one thing. Don't do your business stuff with your spouse. That's a whole freebie right there. And but then there's a choice. She loves me. So as business owners, if we can just put ourselves in an environment where people know us and they love us, that's pretty powerful. And some marriages don't have that. They're known by their spouse, they're known by their kids, but they don't really love them. And then there's this piece of some marriages or business leaders, they love you, but they don't really know about you because it's hidden. So I think is if you can just put yourself in environments where people can fully know you, all the crap, but then also love you, you're gonna grow as a leader. And then now thinking of my product, widget, service, can the world, as they're searching, because people are searching for other people to know them and to be love them, but they're also looking, what do I want to know and what do I want to love? Well, maybe it's my product, widget, or service. And so I think as you tell the story, you asked me earlier, are people using what kind of content are they using? I think whatever you can do to tell that story. It's interesting. Early on in the mattress days, we started in 2008. Yeah, internet was around, but paid clicks, it was still fairly new in that era. And so what do we do in the mattress industry? Well, one of the big chains here in town is American Furniture Warehouse. What they do? Well, they had these full page, almost cardboard like. If the younger generation of listeners remembers what a newspaper was, that was that was what the furniture and mattress world did. we'd spend 20 to 30 grand in 2008 a month on one Saturday cardboard double-sided thing that would have mattresses and images and deals. Yet we weren't a deal store. We were a higher average ticket store, but that was it. And we were one of the first ones in 2009 to start hiring a company that helped us do pay per click and SEO. And that's how we exploded onto the market in Colorado, because we told a story differently to a new generation. And we just kind of began to crush it. And then those dollars just slowly over the next 5, 6, 7 years. But then what happened is, yes, people knew our story. These guys are locally owned and operated. They give to charity. They're not high pressure sales. There was just a different story about us. They got to know my business partner and I's story, and our staff, that we hired felons, we hired refugees. We didn't have everything figured out perfectly. Um, and then you have a new story that showed up, and it was called Casper. It was an import China memory foam mattress. And what did these guys do? They weren't a mattress company. They were a marketing company that happened to sell padded rectangles. And it changed the whole rhythm. People no longer could know our story because it was just about paid clicks, and we couldn't compete. So we saw the industry shrink for us. So we had to figure out a new method and a manner. So the funny thing is, in that area, what was the greatest thing that helped our stores was crazy sign spinners on the street. There was an there was an era that we had to go and tell a different story. We had to build a different relationship with the consumer. And so we'd have guys on Colorado Boulevard where 200,000 cars would drive by on a normal weekday during traffic in the morning and afternoon, spinning signs. And that tended to bring in a ton of business. But we had to constantly recalibrate how could people know our story. And
How
then
can you get in front of people when they're looking for you, searching for you? Yeah, because it's never always the same. We've had that conversation a lot with clients. Is that sometimes it's this type of content, other weeks it's a different type of content, other weeks it's a whole different strategy. It's people are always searching, but they definitely search a little bit differently every time. And finding that rhythm of where they're looking and how they're looking is I feel like a secret that as soon as you figure out, you can lean into pretty quickly.
yeah, and so here's one of the things I think one of we talked about before is what are business owners frustrated and not like? They are frustrated with marketing. So I'm so grateful that you're in the world, and it's not a frustration to you; it's your superpower to how to tell that story, how to help business owners, whatever product they have or services, um, in the digital search economy. How are they being known and found? Because of a generation, I'm in my 50s. Half my business, I'd say a third of the businesses I coach are in their late 20s, early 30s, another in that middle chunk of 30s and 40s, and then another chunk in their 40s and 50s. The older generation is just going, yeah, I hired this company, and I just seem to throw money at it. Kind of like in the old days, we just threw 20 grand a month at Denver Post and
Yep.
people would come in. But there's not a they're frustrated. I think they're frustrated. Business owners are frustrated with marketing is one of the biggest ones.
Well, and I think the biggest thing, right, when you say marketing, we try to do our actually we do our best to think like a marketing agency, right? We need to tell your story, but the biggest thing that we've always leaned into is everyone is frustrated with their marketing agency because it always seems to be a bunch of guesses. We're gonna throw money at this, money at that, and hope that it works. And there's the good saying that hope isn't a strategy, right? But that's why I've loved doing what we do is because I can at least tell you first and foremost if people are even looking for what you do. I can give you the numbers, I can give you where they're looking, why they're looking. That takes some of the risk out. You know there's an audience that you're going to talk to, that you know there's an audience that you're going to be in front of. I think a lot of times I see companies just frustrated with marketing and almost put it on the shelf and say, it doesn't work for our industry. It's because it was never done right. You know, if your car didn't have a transmission, you'd think all cars were broken if that was the only car you ever drove. Could just be that the car was broken instead. So that's the tough part is battling that and getting over it. I think you'd have good insights on this as well. Because right, when you hire a marketing agency, you want to grow. One, sometimes growth is great. Sometimes it's not all that great either. Like how do you tailor, how do you help people think through should you even grow quicker? Like are you just saying growth because it's the next thing on the list of things that business owners do?
Yeah, really good friend of mine a couple years ago. He's like, you know what? Two different experiences in this growth conversation. He goes, I'm at 8 employees. I make a great living. I love what I do. I have a lot of free time to do ministry on the side and spend time with my kids. He goes, I don't want to be 10, 15, $20 million business. I'm okay with that. it was really healthy for him not to get into an engine of it's all about growth. He still needs to be growing and refining and maturing. But for him, he defined growth as it's not just about revenue growth or extra employees or more. And we've all heard the guy he's a fisherman in Baja and Ensenada in Mexico, and
Yep.
some American businessman comes by and
Why
says,
don't you sell it? And it gets all the way back to what he was doing right at that first moment.
yeah, because it's like, well, he goes, gosh, we should expand this because you can then play with your kids and have sex with your wife and dance and eat tacos and fish. And after 30, 40 stores, the Mexican guy goes, you know what? I just want to go back to that. But that was their whole goal, is so you could do more of that. So there's a healthy standard of maturity. And it's having people in our lives know, is growth good for you right now?
Yeah.
I think one of the key pieces is, I still think growth. If you're not growing, you are dying because the market will take you out. I remember having an argument with my business partner saying it's not all about growth; it's about relationships. There's truth in both of those. It is all about growth, but it is also about relationships and healthy maturity. Um, One of the podcasts I hosted a couple years ago is a client talks about almost your soul score. If your soul score on a 0 to 10 is at a 4, your business and your relationships, if you're really honest, cannot go past that cap. If you can take care of you as a person, relationship, deep soul, what's going on inside, then your business has the capacity to grow. You could be a 4 here and maybe even be a 10 here on revenue and profits, but your business may not grow in a mature way that's healthy. It's superseded the growth of the leader. So when I'm looking at leaders, I'm also finding out, where do you want to grow as a person and be whole completely. And that'll then transform your business, your relationships at work, your people development, your impact in the community, your marriage, and your kids. Is, you've got to work on this piece first, your personal piece. And then that'll evaluate where you want to grow. And so I think that was part of my issues as a business owner as well. There's just some blind spots. I didn't have men and women that ran other companies in my life when I was a business owner, and I don't know what it was, if it was fear, imposter syndrome, if it was financial, but I didn't have it in my life to be able to poke holes and going, hey, you've got some blind spots. I had business partners telling me I had blind spots, but the reality is that when you're with a business partner, it's like you're married to them, and so you're poking holes on each of them. And so I love helping businesses grow, but at the speed of their own personal growth as well.
I think that's an interesting way to layer in growth because I always say business problems are personal problems. You solve the personal problem, you can solve the business problem. And it's, how quickly are you solving those problems, and where are you at on that scale? Have you solved the ones you need to solve, or there's still some outstanding? And that layers into how quickly you can grow that business as well. I like that. That's a good way to put it. Uh, I guess really thinking of business problems, and this is one that maybe tailors back to something we talked about earlier, but CEOs wear a lot of hats. A lot of things that they're accountable for, responsible for, and whether by nature of lack of delegation, and honestly what I've come to realize is just it's running a business requires a lot of hats. There's probably no way to beat that. um the one thing I often see is marketing gets pushed to the sideline, and in times of stress it's the first thing to go and the last thing to come back. um how do you encourage people to think long term? Because my argument is always, yeah, in the moment, marketing never seems like a good thing. You can always skip a day and catch up tomorrow, but you never catch up tomorrow. And then you find yourself in more of an issue 6 months down the line when you need that revenue and you can't come up with it quickly. How do you coach around that? But as you coach CEOs as well, how much time are you telling them to spend on the revenue producing growth side of the business?
It all depends on their situation. So that would be a situation where I go, okay, great question. Let's put that on a board and let's actually ask 300 years worth of business owner and CEO experience to solve that. I think the piece is, when it looks at those businesses that do from like a 500,000 to 3 million, they have their unique challenges. What, they're wearing too many hats, especially in those early years. But that 3 to 10 is another growth piece that they have to actually start taking some of those hats off. I really think those businesses at 1 or 2 should start taking off that marketing hat and find the Numas. And in the search economy, search around you. Who's good? Start asking their network. Who do you trust? Right around that 1 to 3. And then it changes. Maybe at 3 to 10, 10 to 15, 20, you start bringing one of those people in house full time. But I think as wherever they are, it's unique to their leadership. Some are great storytellers. Some can tell the story. Some know the marketing world. But get rid of that hat so you can start leading people, and let the marketing teams do that for you. So there's going to be baby steps along the way, but let
Yep.
the experts do it. So it's like these business owners are if they are not good at sales and they're too small, guess what? They're hiring a fractional salesperson. Most business owners don't have the financial CFO tax world. So what are they doing? They're hiring out to the experts. That multiple hat wearer at the beginning has to decide, when do I take off? Who do I take off first? I think allowing your financial advisor person, your CFO, if it's fractional or if it's your brain, you got to grow and you got to have a marketing agency tell you. I think it's one of the first ones that should be entered into. And so when I had a B2C e-com sleep product, and we didn't sell anything until I hired one of yous, and then it exploded. And so it's the same thing in the mattress retail stores. Yeah, we saw some growth with the paper, but as soon
Yeah.
as we hired the experts to do it for us, because we were calling Denver Post and saying, this is what we want.
Yep.
And we want a picture of a mattress here. But as soon as we hired one of yous, that was the explosive growth we had for the next 5, 6 years. And then the company that got you there may not be the one that takes you home.
Yep.
And so there's different marketing agencies that'll help you move through those growth stages, but be willing to look at it just as you're looking at your P&Ls and your balance sheets, hopefully on a monthly basis, on a regular basis, and looking at cash flow performance. You should be sitting down with your marketing. I remember having a conversation. We had a conversation with a fellow client. They're spending about 300K a year. I believe it was last year on marketing. Had no idea what was turning the needle on their business. Zero.
Yep.
Was print working? Was digital working?
Yeah, I often see it because it's not a. It's always a thing that again get cut first and come back last whenever it is being invested in. It's typically just tossed in there because somebody's like, we need to do marketing, so I'll scurry up some investments and do marketing, and it's all lumped together into one big bucket. And then you're like, I don't know if this is producing anything. I'm just going to cut it all, and then this cycle repeats itself over and over and over. And look, no marketing's ever going to perfectly attribute to revenue like 1 to 1. Gone are the days of like I opened Yellow Pages and saw you and called you. That doesn't happen anymore. Like even with Google, a lot of times we'll show people that, hey, we didn't actually grab a lot of net new customers to the site this month. That's okay because every customer that did come to your site or every visitor that came to your site read all of our content and then converted on the content that we wrote. That content wouldn't have been there if we weren't doing what we did to begin with. So understanding the larger way that people buy, how people search. I hear a lot of people that and it's always it's younger people, but it's definitely tech focused people. Chat GPT is going to kill search. Nobody uses Google anymore. If you ask, I think all of our clients, 95% would know who Chat GPT is, what it is, why it's important. And if I ask them how they find answers to their questions, it's probably going to be Google. And the broader reality is, and it's one thing that we've always hit and harped on, a lot of marketing exists to help people buy products the way that the company wants them to buy. So they're going to do Facebook ads because the company wants their customer to be on Facebook, see an ad, and come convert. And the reality is sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But the thing that we've always hit hard on is okay, I can't change human behavior. That's pretty darn tough. I can capture the behavior that they already have. And a lot of people just search funny things, important things, not important things. But Google, in many ways, is their silent partner in their knowledge base as a human. Play a role in that. Just kind of be part of that behavior that they already have. And to your point, that behavior changes. It used to be the physical newspaper. That was how people looked for things. And at some point, it won't be Google. I don't think it's anytime soon. But finding the way that people shop and behave and putting your marketing strategy as a part of that, not trying to create something new. Just see a lot of people trying to win. I feel like the most creative ad campaign ever award. I don't even know if that exists, but it's a heck of a lot easier just to put your business in front of people the way that they want to view your business and not try and force them down a different path.
Yeah, and I love how you're talking behavioral. And I think that's why hiring a company like you, Numa, to help companies in the search economy is super important, because I want you not just to go, hey, we're coming into your PPC and your SEO. No, I'm hiring you to become my fractional marketing company,
Yeah,
because you're
let's talk your audience. Let's talk what revenue you make, what profit looks like, what a good deal, what a bad deal is. We had a kickoff call yesterday for Google Ads and didn't talk about Google Ads once. It
because
just that's
I
that's the
want you.
tactic.
Yes, I want you and your team influencing the DNA of the whole company. Because
Yep,
I've seen companies that their leads go up, the marketing team is doing well, but why are revenues down 20%? Because the sales team is not actually understanding why people are coming into the company. The leads are coming in.
yep.
The leads have jumped and their people are wanting the product, but the salespeople are misfiring. So if your sales team is not meeting with your marketing team and your finance team isn't actually understanding what the marketing team is doing, yes, then they're going to cut you, because the finance guys are always cutting.
The finance guys are always cutting. They'll cut everything.
Yeah, CEO, you're cut. No more salary. We don't need you because we're all doing the business for
Yeah,
you.
we're all exactly. They'll cut their own salaries if they find a good enough reason to and celebrate it.
But we know stories sell, and we know. I think there's a phrase: businesses grow at the speed of relationships and trust.
Yep,
The marketing agency is the holder of that. Can we build relationships with PPC, with SEO, with branding?
yep.
Let's tell that story so there's a relationship with the consumer. And we actually understand that the consumer wants to be known and loved, and the business wants to be known and loved. Well, let's actually have them connect together, and there's a marriage in there somewhere, and everybody's growing.
And the funny thing is, nobody wants to force that. That has to be owned by the customer. And we always talk to clients that customers are on offense. We can't force them to buy things, but we can certainly put you in front of them and let them make their own decision. While slower, I always think it's a healthier thing is that I don't want to emotionally manipulate you to get you to buy something today because the deal's going to end. There's a method to that, but for a lot of our clients, it's let's just keep putting you in front of the people that want to know you, want to talk to you, want to know your product. Let them make their own decision on their own time frame because that's a much healthier way to start that B2B or B2C relationship than trying to maneuver your way into a checkout. Final question I'll give you as you think about CEOs, as you think about growing businesses, as you think about how to be found, like yeah, I like your known and loved example. What are some of the big pieces of advice or the ways that you're being a resource to the people that you're working with now?
You know what? I think it's what is the pain, the sickness of a CEO and owner and founder, and we are the prescription to help solve that pain point. If the pain point is I'm just lonely, I'm lonely as an owner. I'm working all the time. All my people look to me for answers. I've got no one that's in my corner that I can just go have a conversation. That's one of the prescriptions that we can solve. But I've also got business owners and people are going, but I want to have a deeper impact. It's not just about making money. Can you put
Yeah,
me in a room of other men and women that doing the same thing as me, but their impact is different. I didn't think about hiring refugees or hiring second chance felons. I didn't think about actually putting a chaplain or a counselor in our business and amping that up. So I think it's finding out what's going on in the soul of your business. Identify your business is actually a being. It's an organism, and then you as a leader are also attached to that. And so what we're doing in Acumen is finding what is that. We put prescriptions to solve that. We're not a supplement. We're not just going to drip on you, but actually we're actually helping solve some pain. And every business owner's got a different pain. It could be money, it could be growth, it could be people, it could be all those things. We're a generalist that then can say, okay, now you're in the environment for growth. Because I think it's Henry Cloud. He's an author of Boundaries and Changes That Heal
yeah,
years ago. He's the proper environment for growth. And I would say for the leader as well as the business itself is truth plus grace over time. And we have to uncover the soil, create a good soil where there's proper nutrients and sun and water. If business owner is siloed and he's in his own little cubicle, in his own little
yep,
office world, his own little business, and he's not in the proper environment, that plant of his business is going to die. And so we create a great environment for massive growth, personally, professionally, relationally.
yeah.
It's a ton of
And
fun.
I like your point about getting out of the silo because I think now with remote and hybrid being a big win of that, it's a lot easier to just be siloed and forget the nutrients that your own environment needs.
Yeah. So, for example, I had a business owner, mid 50s, go, hey, I never thought I needed a peer group. He goes, I've got good buddies from my faith community, and we talk. And I said, well, have any of your buddies over the course of your 35-year career told you that you're an a-hole and your idea is horrible? And he goes, no, never. He goes, they're usually pretty encouraging. I go, yeah, because you're not letting him in deep enough to
Yeah.
say, we actually think you're kind of shady. And so that's now I just maybe talked about 90% of the business owners that don't want to join a group like
Yeah.
Acumen or be in a community like this somewhere around the
Yeah, but
country.
it's the ones that wanna know it, or I'd even broadly say the ones that are tired of hearing yes. They want to be challenged. It doesn't mean that they're gonna take all the advice, but I think whenever I seek out stuff like that, I want someone to tell me I'm an idiot on everything that I bring up. Again, doesn't mean it's gonna be exactly what we take. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But there's a healthy way of you want your ideas to be challenged, you want them to be tested. It's kind of the I always use sports analogies, but that's why you practice and that's why you do scrimmages. It's to get ready for the game. If you just played a bunch of games against nobody, you have no idea how good you are. And I always view the game as like rolling out a change to a company, but you want somebody other side to poke your holes and test it out. Just that how can you get 1% better? And I think having that you know, something to tune yourself against, something to have as an example, and you typically can find that pretty well in a collective that can voice it. But right, I can't see you use the nail in the head video. If I have a nail in my head, I can't see it. Everybody else can see it though, right? And I think it's putting yourselves in those environments to see the nails in your head is really important.
Well, it's I had a new business owner just join our community on the other team of Acumen, and he's been in for about 3 months. And he asked me on our one-on-one the past week. He goes, "Do I have to listen to him? Because that was really hard what he said about me." I said, "Have you ever had anybody do that to you?" He goes, "No, I didn't know that's what I was getting in this group." I go, "Yeah, they're not here just to all blow smoke up your butt.
Yeah.
They're actually here to challenge you and poke you." And the interesting thing is, the gentleman that was poking the business owner, he was poked about a year ago pretty hard.
Yeah.
And I hear people saying, "Do I have to listen? Do I have to follow?" But it's the same thing. As Numa comes into their company, and you're advising this company on marketing
Yeah.
strategies
We're
and
definitely
getting
not sitting there and being a yes man. If you need to be challenged, you'll be challenged. You might like it, you might not like it, but right, we're servants of the business at that point. I think with a group, finding those people around you that are serving your business more than serving you is really important.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you got to jump on. It was fun to chat. We'll put some of the notes, your LinkedIn profile, Acumen, in the show notes as well, so people can find you. But yeah, if anything, even if you're not out in the Denver area, find a way for your business to be known and find a way for you to be known. I think is the big takeaway.
Exactly. Thanks,
Beautiful.
David.
Well said. Enjoy. See ya.